Hey, it's Doc Edwards. I'm coming back to you with another One Belly, Two Brains Wednesday. And what I'm going to talk with you about today is if you have questions regarding COVID-19 and pregnancy, this is hopefully the last video you're ever going to have to watch on it. So New York University did a study at their hospital on 215 pregnant women who came in, and they tested them all. They did the nose swab, go up the nose, into the brain, check it out, it's nasopharynx is not a fun place to get tested if you haven't had that experience before. But they tested them all for COVID-19, and they found that of the 215, they said, okay, so this number have COVID-19 symptoms, and they also are positive. These ones are asymptomatic. Now, from that study, some really interesting things started coming out. When you use actual numbers, what they found is in the asymptomatic patients, there were probably like 3 of them who had some form of COVID-19 positive test and also no symptoms, but then developed fevers later on. And one of the things that they developed with those fevers is a pretty common infection in the uterus. This is super common, like up to 71% of all C-section births end up having this infection. It's the reason why they do prophylactic antibiotics during a C-section, is because it's specifically to help prevent this kind of infection in the uterus. So it's a very, very common infection. It was presumed in 2 of those 3 that was what was going on, despite the fact that one of those moms didn't actually have any pain at the site of her uterus. They just said, oh, this must be related to COVID-19. Now, I hate it when they conflate stuff like that. When you have well-meaning researchers who are trying to help understand a population, I think that it would be smart to not just presume that somebody has an infection and lump them into it. I think they should actually investigate that further, right? Shouldn't there be some kind of antibody test, let's say, to figure out, hey, listen, is this person actually working through COVID-19? Or maybe the fact that we just opened her up, that's the reason why. However, they didn't say that in the commentary. Instead, what got published out across the media was up to 15% of all pregnant women may have COVID-19. And that is a misreading of the data. It's just not being honest with the numbers. Because here is what we're seeing here in Florida. We're open, by the way. Our beaches are starting to open up here in our county. Our parks are starting to open up. Our state parks have been open. I've gone out for the last couple of weeks to check those out. And here in Florida, we've got a very different scenario. Again, I'm trying to compare New York pregnant women to Florida old people. I know it's not a good comparison. It's not very neat. It doesn't mesh very well at all. It's very much apples to oranges as far as vitamin D levels, as far as being able to look at things like progesterone and be able to look at things like estrogen levels and things like having a placenta. The protective factors of pregnancy against something like COVID-19 have everything to do with ACE2, which is an enzyme your body produces. I've talked about this a whole lot in our blog. You can check it out. But the whole idea here is that these Floridians should be more susceptible to COVID-19 than the pregnant patients, right? Like, that's what everybody's telling you. However, our University of Florida, their public health department, has estimated that right now we're looking at an incidence rate of COVID-19 of less than 1%, right around 1%. Very different than 15% of all pregnant women, right? Because that's the fear. That's the boogeyman in the grocery store, right? Is the person who's asymptomatic but a carrier. It's why you see all these people wearing masks walking around, because they think that someone's going to cough or sneeze on them, when in reality, the whole purpose for the mask is to keep you from spitting on everybody else, right? But they worry every time you have a sniffle or a cough. Here's what they found in that University of Florida study at the villages, that 97% of symptomatic people, these are people who have coughs, they have sneezes, they have fevers, 97% of them tested negative for COVID-19. That means for all those coughs or sneezes that you're hearing in the grocery store, 97% of the time, there's another reason for it. So here we have this pregnancy study that's estimating that maybe up to 15% of pregnant patients have COVID-19. And I'm sitting here going, I think we ought to be really serious with numbers. My One Belly Wednesday, the reason I chose this is because we do a ton of research out of our office, and I take research very, very seriously. I do a lot of clinical research. What we do is we try to help understand the difference between statistical significance and clinical significance. I'll give you the example that I teach my classes. So statistical significance means that there's no results due to chance in this. So if I like coffee at, say, a 6 or 7 out of 10, and you test me 30 days out of the month and ask me how many days do you like coffee, and I rate it 6 or 7 out of 10, that given that time frame, right, they look and see coffee or no coffee, is he going to like it? Yep, absolutely, 6 out of 10. The numbers fall in there, he's going to like it. I like coffee with almond milk, maybe an 8 or 9 out of 10. I would say that if you gave me the condition of having almond milk versus just having black coffee over 30 days, there's not going to be much of a difference between the two. I mean, if you give me cold coffee and I like it a 3, and you give me hot coffee and I like it a 6, you give me hot coffee with almond milk and I like it a 7 or an 8, there's a big difference between a 3 and a 6, but there's not a big difference between a 7 or an 8. Statistical significance is the difference between cold coffee and hot coffee. Clinical relevance is the difference between coffee black and coffee with almond milk. Does it make a difference to me whether or not you give me almond milk? Yeah, it totally does. I like it better, right? But it doesn't necessarily meet the standards of statistical significance over here. I bring that up because here's the important point when it comes to clinical research. It's really important to actually look at the raw numbers someone uses. Because while there may be a finding that, oh, this could be due to chance, understanding that a key feature of evidence-informed practice, what that really means for us is looking at the literature, looking at our experience as clinicians, but then also looking at your preferences in order to make informed decisions is really important. So as we're going into labor, as we're going into birth, this is the thing that patients are fearing. It's their partners aren't really ready. They don't feel like they were going to be prepared for all the jobs they were asked to do, that they weren't going to be prepared to be a doula. They weren't prepared to be a birth coach. They weren't prepared to do spinning babies exercises. They didn't feel prepared in order to walk into this scenario now where everybody's having masks. They can't have the birth photographer. Now they got to know how to do the iPhone while the baby's coming out, and they're starting to freak out, right? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to help those partners understand, first off, what's real, what's fact-based. The second thing is, how can we help you, right? And so I was really thankful for our local team of birth providers, our birth services providers in the local Southwest Florida Birth Network. We're getting together to help them out. And I've always been a big advocate of this organization because I really think that we work really strongly to help promote birth as a natural event rather than a medical emergency. And so we're all putting in these videos together, little tips and tricks for those partners that we're going to be launching hopefully by next week. So that's going to have a lot to do with me and my video production skills to edit it all together, but be on the lookout for that. So until next time, here's what I want you to do. I would love, love, love for you to help share some of these videos. If you have a patient who's pregnant, as a chiropractor, if you are pregnant yourself, if your partner is pregnant, I want you to start having them read some of these things that we're putting out on the Mama's Chiropractic blog. Go to it. I want you to visit the blog. I always link to it at the bottom of this. So check out the resources there. I spend a lot of time and put so much value in there, giving you the actual references, linking to the sites, linking to the other articles that we write, that it's meant to be this treasure trove of information for you. I also want you to share these videos. Like us, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure that you like us and share it on Facebook. Put it on your page. You can put it in group pages. The more we get this good research-based information out to people about that it's safe to be pregnant in the time of COVID, I think the better and more relaxed we're all going to be about